This is Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro. If you drive long haul, short haul, or heavy haul, they're here to empower and inspire women in the trades on tncradio.live. So gear down, sit back, and enjoy.
You're listening to Women Road Warriors. We're a show designed to empower and inspire women in trucking, in the trades, and everywhere. We cover all kinds of topics and take on the tough subjects too. I'm Shelley, and
I'm Kathy.
Today, we have a powerhouse of empowerment. Marilyn Shannon is the founder of Women's Power Networking. She's an experienced facilitator, author, court mediator, life coach, journalist, and TV and radio host. She covers relationship communication and the power of deep listening. Marilyn is a tireless advocate who works to inspire and educate women. She helps the overlooked, underserved, or ignored groups in our society so they can be heard, supported, and better understood. Welcome, Marilyn. Thank you so much for being on the show with us.
Well, thank you so much. This is exciting. I've never spoken to women like this before, and I've spoken to a lot of women.
And we're glad you are. You've got quite the background. There's so much to cover. I love the fact that you advocate to give people a voice. I imagine that's tough to be heard today.
Well, it is. I mean, there's a lot of noise. So, have you ever been to a restaurant where you're sitting across from someone and the restaurant's very, very loud? And sometimes people do what? Sometimes they get louder, right? They scream. That's not what you do. Guess what you do? You get under the noise. You whisper.
Oh, really?
And that's how you get heard.
Interesting. Tell us more.
Well, your volume is on a different, let's say, wavelength than the rest of the group, right? In the restaurant, You don't want to be on the same level. You want to be on a different level. So you whisper. So there are ways of getting heard, and we have to do our best to help people come out of from behind, because there's no balance if everybody's not being heard. And we have, it's really important to understand our judgments and to agree to disagree so that we get to understand each other, because listening is so important. I mean, it is I say it's the kingpin, queen, king of all senses. And it's the way that we bridge humanity. And it's very important. So separating from what the talk is to a different talk is very important.
It doesn't seem like a whole lot of people listen today. They do a whole lot of yelling.
Well, people think they're listening when they're not. Because what happens is people stop. They think they heard it and they're done. But that's not the case. The case is, if you've heard something, that is the doorway to hear more, to listen more, to get into something even more profound and into more levels of listening. So we're never done. And it's, you enter listening with a sense of humor because of what you might hear, or how you hear things. Or I remember when I first started a listening practice, and this was over 20 years ago, and it came through tears. I mean, a lot of times, that's how freedom comes. Freedom comes from something that may not be free, right? You break free from something to be free.
Right.
And I remember practicing listening and realizing all the things that I was leaving out. I was starting to listen to myself, and I could hear my mind or my brain going through the process of something, but my mouth didn't share all that with somebody else. My mouth went from, let's say, A to D, where my brain covered the rest. And I'm like, well, this is a setup. I'm not including the other person in my process. And I had to laugh, because I'm like, wow, that's just so cool to realize something like that. So listening really affords you an opportunity. I don't have 1 million degrees. I have a little, but I don't have a lot. But what I do have is listening. And that is the smartest thing you can do.
And you have a degree in life experience.
I sure do, honey.
Yeah.
I sure do. I say to clients all the time when I'm coaching, I sit in my chair ethically, not because I haven't had a life, but because I've had a life. And, many times somebody will bring a story, a situation, a conflict, an issue to me. And maybe I haven't been through that exact thing, but I've been through enough to be able to empathize and understand and not pass judgment. And I've been through enough. Let me put it to you this way. I've been through enough stop signs. I've gone through enough stop signs where where I don't beat my horn. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like that analogy.
I do. I
You know,
do.
I mean, yeah, when people beep the horn, I mean, are they kidding? Because if they haven't been through a stop sign, then I can't even imagine they're actually behind a wheel.
If they say they have never done that, then they're probably lying.
Exactly. 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 So, yeah, I mean, life is a lot easier when we listen. It's not that hard. And we can cut through a lot of things when we really turn on them, our ears, and it's not just our ears, it's our senses, it's our touch, our taste. Everything around us is telling us something.
Sure. It feels today like nobody really listens to each other, though. There's a
Well,
disconnect.
there is a disconnect, but if you're the one listening,
Mm-hmm.
then you can help.
Right?
Because by the questions, by listening to the answer that you're getting, each and every one of us can help all kinds of things if we listen, and little by little, and encouragement and acknowledging somebody else, you help open them up. So if you're engaged and conscious in a conversation, in that relationship, whoever that is with, you make a huge, I was going to say the biggest difference, and maybe for somebody you will, but you will make a huge difference in general.
And that goes in everyday conversation, even in the simplest things that you might not think is important. I mean, give, for example, just two people having a conversation, and the one person is always looking at his phone, his or her phone,
Yeah.
always down and looking up at the person, pretending to listen, but then being
Oh, that drives
distracted
me
by the
crazy.
phone. And
Exactly.
you're trying to share something, and you say, "Are you listening?" "Oh, yeah, I'm listening," but they're actually looking at their phone. How can you be listening when your attention is divided maybe in 3 places on that phone, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what do you do when you're talking to somebody and they've got a phone and they're like glued to it? What do you do? How do you break that experience, that glue?
Actually, I'm pretty blunt. I just say, "Hey, would you mind putting that down for a minute?" And
Yeah.
you.
eyes up here, eyes up here.
Good
Yeah.
for you.
I mean, that works.
Yep.
Yeah. And yeah, that works.
Snap them out of it. Hey, back to reality. Look up. I'm here.
Yeah, that works. That's exactly right. I tell people, use your words.
Yeah.
I mean, use the words we got. I mean, be
Basics,
honest.
words.
Yeah, be
Most
honest.
people use their thumbs today. They're texting.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Use your words. I mean, if you're in that situation like Kathy just said,
Yep.
you can very easily say to somebody, "Hey, Sarah, I noticed you're on your phone. Should we talk later?"
Yeah. Just, yeah.
I mean, use your words.
Yeah.
So Marilyn, what exactly do you do?
But everything I do, Shelley, is connected. Everything, I do different things, but it's all for the same reason. I am here to re-enchant this planet. I'm here to help re-enchant this planet. And what that means is the planet is enchanted. But we, by our actions, by our fear, have laid a layer of yuck on top of it. And I am here, and it's just the yuck is not concrete. It's not a hard material that you can't break through. It's just our consciousness. It's our awareness. It's this layer of things that we perceive as something that can be real. So I am here to help people realize that and show them in different ways how to break through that. So I'm writing a series of books, And we all know for a long time that stories really matter. I mean, when you hear somebody talk about their life in a story,
Mm-hmm.
what they've been through, when you really hear their heart, whether you like them or you don't, you do find a way of connecting with them and understanding. So I I decided to write a series of books, and my series is called In Just One Afternoon, Listening into the Hearts of. So it doesn't take much to listen into the heart of somebody. It doesn't take much to make nice. It just takes an afternoon. How much time does it take? It doesn't take much to say to somebody, I'm sorry, or thank you, or even a year or two, 10 years down the road. It doesn't matter. You can turn to somebody and say, 10 years ago, we had this thing, but I've been thinking about it for 10 years and I want to apologize. And it makes all the difference. So it doesn't take much.
Yeah.
So I started with, in just one afternoon, listening to the hearts of men, and I interviewed a whole bunch of men about everything, showing men all sides of men. And I wanted to do that primarily because I was coaching a lot of men and I was watching them struggle with expressing the simplest of emotion, and they had it. They had it. They could cry, they could laugh, but a lot of you know this as well as I do. A lot of men didn't have role models to like lean on. So I wanted men to see that you could cry, you could share, you could have these experiences. So I did it with men, and a lot of women started reading it because they wanted to understand men, which is great because I started understanding,
And men
then,
say we're hard to understand, right?
yeah, that's an interesting dichotomy. So, we women have had the gift to be able to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
It's been accepted. So, we can do multiple things at one time if we have to. We've been taught to do that. I mean, it's in our genes, it's in our cells, it's in our bloodstream. I mean, we just, we can do that. So, men, and we ask questions fast,
Mm-hmm.
and we process faster in some cases. So, yeah, we confuse men.
Yes, we do.
We do. We
Most definitely.
confuse men. We do. There's no question. Yeah, we do. And so women started, reading it. And then the next one was twins. And just one afternoon, listening to the hearts of twins. I chose twins because my mother and my aunt are now 96. And they are pretty crazy, two crazy women. They're very powerful. They're conscious. They, thank God, drive their children nuts. But they do it in a we're grateful that they drive us nuts because at 96 you don't get two women like this.
No.
Yeah, I mean, if I showed you a picture, you just couldn't believe it. My aunt still drives, my mother doesn't because she has some health issues, but they're just, I mean, last night my daughter and I were hysterical laughing about my mother because it's constantly about, do you like the color of my hair? Or do you think that the back should be shorter? And she's going to parties next week because of the holidays, and she wants to know what she should wear. It is constant. It isn't just one time, and it's wonderful because they're the way they are. And twins teach us a lot about relationships. They have an uncanny ability to make nice and get along. They have this unconditional love, and I'm like, we're all from, if you think about it, and this sounds crazy and a little woo-woo, but it's okay. We're all from one womb anyway. Why can't we all get along? Why can't we all just kind of flip it off?
Yes.
I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, we should be able to do that. And twins do that. I mean, there's some that have, challenges, and I could tell you some horrifying stories about some twins that I interviewed, but they teach you. I mean, if you want to parent twins, you're going to be the best parent there is. Sibling rivalry, you name it. They're really great at it. Conflict resolution. Oh my God. They just know how to do it. And then it was millennials, and just one afternoon listening to lots of millennials because millennials get a bad rap. And nobody should get a bad rap. Nobody. Because there's a reason for things. Millennials are not in the basement because they just want to do nothing. The ones that are in the basement are they really, some of them can't get like jobs. They've gone to college, they get degrees. It's cost them all these thousands of dollars. They don't want to wash dishes. Who does?
Right.
And they have so much, but they really care about things. And I really like millennials. So, and then the most recent one was people impacted by opioid addiction. And that was a whole nother avenue. And when you talk to people who shoot up, and you listen to their stories on how they got started, it's amazing. You don't look at somebody shooting up the same way again. And that's the point of listening into somebody's heart, is whether they're, I interviewed, trans men, I interviewed people in prison. When you hear them, you can't dislike them. It may not be your path, but you can see how somebody, if you open up your ears and your heart, you can see how somebody could choose something. I was introduced to this woman who, a 40-year-old magnificent woman, who started dating a guy who was shooting up. Now, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the life that you have when you're involved with somebody who's got that disease?
Constant chaos.
Oh my God. Yeah, it is. Constant drama, constant chaos. And when I went into the interview, I have to tell you the truth, I was like, I wanted to shake her up. I want him like, how can you do that? How could you get involved with somebody? It took me not that long after listening to her.
Mm-hmm.
And it changed my perspective. And she just said, he's wonderful. He's loyal. He loves me. He cares about me. He works hard. But oh, by the way, when he was in college, he tried something and can't get off of it.
Yep.
And it's really hard. And so I interviewed a lot of people. Now my next book is Black Fathers. And I'm very anxious to get that done, because Black daddies have a lot to teach. It's amazing how engaged and I don't do it that way. Mm-hmm. I see a Black man with, and I say, do you have children? Yeah, I have children. Would you let me interview you? Sure. I don't go and look for the best men or the best women or any. I just, whoever shows up, and the stories are real and raw. So it's a passion of mine to expose people for their goodness. And the same with the women's group. Everything I do has that element. And I've been doing a talk show for 10 years, and it's called Breaking Free. And I've interviewed all kinds of people, from people I didn't like their story to people who I love their story. But it's important to share all of them.
Stay tuned for more of Women Road Warriors coming up.
Industry movement Trucking Moves America Forward is telling the story of the industry. Our safety champions, the women of trucking, independent contractors, the next generation of truckers, and more. Help us promote the best of our industry. Share your story and what you love about trucking. Share images of a moment you're proud of. And join us on social media. Learn more at truckingmovesamerica.com.
Welcome back to Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro.
What have you learned talking to all these different people? Because I'm sure you had an objective when you first started doing that. Has it taken you in another direction, and have you learned a lot about humanity?
That's a really good question.
It is.
That's a really good question. Wow.
Oh, you're a good Shelley.
Woo, that's a good question.
Told you she was awesome.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Kathy.
that was very good. And I like good questions, because I think people don't ask enough questions when they don't listen to the answers. People are afraid of asking the hard questions. Um, you know what? I think that's a really good question. I think what it's done, it's made me want to do this even more. It's allowed me to realize that I think my path has been clear. You know who I want to be?
Who?
I want to be Anthony Robbins, but I want to do it my way. Do you know who Anthony Robbins is? Tony Robbins.
Yeah,
I
Okay.
who
want that.
doesn't?
Yep.
Well, some people you can't assume. Um, I want that stage, not for my ego. I want that stage because I want to help people express themselves. Because people are holding on to a lot. And it's what you're doing is fabulous because it's so important to show all people. Like who would have ever thought that there would be this woman who would be driving this rig? Just like I interviewed a woman who worked in a mine for years and years and years in a mine. Like who does that?
I do.
Yep. Yep, you do.
I
Yep.
do.
Yeah.
Well,
An open pit mine.
you might like a coal mine.
No oil.
Oh my God.
Oil.
Well,
Yep.
you might even have known. I don't remember what this woman's name was.
Probably not. I'm in northern Canada in Timbuktu, so
So, I mean, it's just, yeah, I like people more than I continue to like people. I continue to know the power of our story. I continue to want to do everything that I'm doing.
Would you say that people stop listening and don't really know each other because they're always casting blame somewhere? I know women are quick to blame themselves, but it seems like there's a lot of blame being bounced around today. And like you say, there's a layer of yuck. I think social media is part of that yuck.
Yeah. Well, who created social media? People.
Yeah,
So
true.
whatever has come from us is part of that layer, and we've created a lot of those kinds of things. Yeah, I think that people are scared. There's two main emotions. Everything comes from them. And I call them the love tree and the fear tree. And so the fear is keeping us away from each other. Blame is one of those things that it keeps us disconnected as opposed to connecting. It keeps us separate as opposed to connected. So, yeah, I mean, people are scared of, they can't. And here's the other thing that I think is really important. A lot of people have not been taught life skills growing up. I mean, life skills, simple life skills, they can't cope.
Yeah.
yeah, that's so true.
I think that's more so today. At least that's what I've been observing.
Yeah. So what are you observing?
Uh, Not the inability to make a decision or the fear to make a decision is one of them I see. Yep.
So, okay, so that's interesting. So making decisions. If you are a creative person,
Mm-hmm.
creative people have a hard time making decisions. You know why?
Why?
Because they see all the possibilities. They see the different. They see right.
Yeah.
They see the different colors of gray and red and blue. How can they choose?
Sure. Yeah.
That is my problem. I am a Gemini too. So man, I have 8 hamsters and one wheel in this noggin. I
There you
think,
go.
oh, that looks good. Oh, I could do that. I could do this. Oh, look at that. I could do this
Okay,
too.
And
that's
I'm a
why.
Pisces, so yeah, that's a creative sign
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
So that's why creative people have a really hard time. Okay. Now, the other side of the coin of making decisions is are people who are what I call the beers, the being people. Those are people who are in their hearts a lot, and they have a security issue, and making decisions are tough because you're right. If I do this, I'm scared I'll do it wrong, and that some people have been like emotionally beaten up a lot, so they have a really hard time narrowing down and like saying, okay, putting a stake in the ground and saying, okay, this is my choice, with the fear that they're doing it wrong. So they're not the same. So there's, it's the people who are real creative have a hard time. They're not doing it because they're necessarily scared, even though, there can be some of that, but their driver is their creativity. And on the other flip side are the people who are emotional and have self-esteem stuff, because that's where self-esteem comes from, and they can't make a decision because of their fear. So it's two different things.
Where does anger come in? Is that on the fear side?
Yeah. Yeah. And can you figure, I mean, why would you say that? You're absolutely right. Why would you say that?
Because there seems to be a lot of anger I see with people today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And of course, that interferes with communication.
I was just going to say, when you're angry, you certainly don't listen.
Right. You really don't. Yeah.
No, you put that big glob of stuff between you and somebody else, anger. I mean, think about, where anger is coming from. It's like not having enough information, feeling slighted, feeling like you're not listened to, so if you feel good about yourself, then anger doesn't, you just say it, use your words, and you can dissipate a lot of anger.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, anger, anything that's not from love is from fear of not being good enough.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I think women suffer from that more than men. Women are better, though, at venting. I think that's what we all like to call it. When I don't have anybody to talk to, I go in my bedroom and vent. You'd swear I answer myself too.
But we have more people to vent to. So the women's group that I'm in, 8 of us came together and wrote a book together. And it was an interesting process because, I mean, writing a book is one thing. Writing a book with 7 other women is another story. But it was about breaking rules. And the rules that we had to each individually break to get to where we are. So it was very interesting what these women had said. And we want to create this movement for women to be comfortable and break rules. Whose rule are we ruling with anyway? I mean, whose rule are you breaking anyway? I mean, somebody said this should be a rule, and let's not let it's one person, or it's 2 people, or it becomes 100 people.
Sure. Is it a rule or an indoctrination that holds us back? Yeah.
Boundary, rule, indoctrination, absolutely. So we get to do those things, and I think men and women are breaking rules differently.
How are women breaking rules that are different than men?
Well, and here's where men have been given more permission to break rules.
Yeah.
Not even to listen to the rules that have been given, or
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Yeah.
People perceive something that a man's saying differently. He could be absolutely angry and blowing up on you and saying all kinds of stuff that if a woman said it, they have nasty words to describe her.
Absolutely. And they use them too.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're emotional. They're, they're this, they're that, we're coming from, I remember years and years and years ago, I was in my 20s. My first husband was in the furniture business, and his family were in the furniture business, and I wanted something to do, and I'm pretty gutsy in that way. I like, all I have to do is, somebody says to me, do you wanna? And I'm like, sure. I don't even care what comes after wanna. So I wanted to open up a store, a gift store, furniture store, whatever. And so I started the process. And I remember one of the furniture reps that I was working with said to me, well, it's a nice hobby. I was so offended.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. But see, in those days, I was a lot angrier. So I was going to be vindictive. But he pushed a nerve. He pushed that button in me where I'm thinking to myself, maybe he's right. Same thing when I went to the furniture market for the first time, and I would walk into these furniture spaces and the men wouldn't get up to wait on me. They didn't take me seriously.
Yeah.
So the underneath button is, well, maybe I'm not worthy. Or maybe I'm really not going to do that well. And that's the fear part.
Yep.
But I was going to show them. And I said to myself, when I walked into that furniture market that day, you know what? One day they're all going to get up and come over and help me.
That's right. I'll show you.
I'll
Yep.
show you. And I
Yep.
did that. I
Good
did
for
that.
you.
Oh, yeah. Now I do that same kinds of things, but not with that anger and not to show you. I'm doing it for reasons like the opioid stuff. What's going on? Kids dying and people, using substances and people not understanding what the whole thing is about is horrific.
Yes, it is.
And so, yeah, it's awful. So my thing is I'm going to make a difference with this. Listen, I would be so happy just sitting on my chair listening to an audiobook every day and sometimes not doing anything. But there are things that have to be done. And, there are things that I see that I can't walk away from.
You're being a champion. So important. How do women in the transportation industry find their voice and find the empowerment you're talking about?
Well, let me can I turn that around? Can I take your question and ask Shelley?
Uh-huh.
So Shelley,
Mm-hmm.
what do you see in the women that you are involved with?
In the transportation industry?
Yeah.
They're very independent and very powerful. And
Okay.
but I'm not sure they were always that way. I'm sure at some time in their life they might have had questions. Can I do this? I mean, Kathy, did you have questions when you first started? Like, ooh, can I do this?
Absolutely. Especially coming from a background where men were not the greatest or very intimidating, and stepping into a world of men coming from my background was very, very intimidating. But I had lots of questions. But the one thing that I can tell you that I noticed is that the women who operate heavy equipment are a little bit different in the sense of from say women in the corporate world, in the sense that they have a willingness to challenge, a willingness to try it, that feel the fear and do it anyway. Like when I talk to women in the locker room and they're trying something new, they're training on a new piece of equipment and they're telling me that they're shaking in their boots and they want to puke, but they're still doing it. So when sometimes when you talk to other people and they would you try this? They're like, oh, no, I could never do that. So there's a difference I don't know if it's a consciousness thing or what it is, but
it all automatically they're breaking a barrier. They're breaking a judgment by the mere fact that they have entered into a career that is like jaw dropping. When you share what you're doing, my jaw drops.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, so I think that they probably, it might be very interesting because I think that they, and this is not a judgment. I'm curious.
Mm-hmm.
When women go into doing having these kinds of careers, are they just going into it hard or are they also being reflective?
I think they're both.
Okay.
Both. Absolutely. I mean, one of my goals anyway, as I'm facing, getting into the public eye more and more, is to bring to the attention that, to break the stigma that women operating, in the trades, or whether it's trucking or operating equipment, that they can be super feminine and still operate, and not because there's a stigma that, you're either you look like a man, you dress like a man, and you act like a man, when in reality it's not. So people are kind of shocked when they see my picture and I'm dressed to the nines, I got nails, I got heels, I got my hair and makeup, and I look smoking hot, and they look at me operating the biggest truck in the world and they're like, what? Like you do that? I'm like, yeah, I do. So I'm trying to break that, to bring femininity back.
Yeah, very important. And you know what? I would even invite you to come speak at one of my women's things.
Oh, I would love that.
Kathy.
Yeah, because people need to see this. So, I would say to the women who are doing these kinds of jobs like you, who are out of the box in whatever to
Yeah.
speak, we need you to speak up.
Yeah.
We need you to be out here and showing us, the other women, and showing the rest of our communities, men included,
Mm-hmm.
who you are and what matters to you.
That's right. Stand up and have that voice. And I encourage all my coworkers to do the same. Right.
Yep.
A lot of them
Everybody.
don't. So I'm pretty much the voice for my work at the same time for all the
Yep.
women. There's not a whole lot of women to begin with. So I want to make sure that all of us as a whole are heard.
Yeah,
So
and we owe it to our kids. We owe it to these young women, that, and we also, and I have to tell you, a lot of men aren't speaking up either. We need to push the men too. I
Mhm.
mean, I really like yesterday I was in a call with a group of people about opioid stuff, and most of them have lost a child. I have not lost, thank God, anybody. I'm doing it because I see I see something I need to do. But a lot of these people that I associate with now on a fairly regular basis have lost like a child.
Yeah.
And you see mostly mamas. You don't see a lot of daddies.
Mhm.
And I was in a call yesterday and I was encouraging the daddies to get other daddies because daddies need to see each other. And we need everybody to feel good or to feel hopeful or I mean, obviously you can't feel good all the time and happy, right? But we need everybody to come out here and feel and
I think,
express themselves.
yeah, I think people are afraid to do that. I think you're absolutely correct. And maybe social media has created some of that too. Even though it's connected so many people, we're disconnected.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Mhm.
true, and but a step at a time,
Yep.
a leap at a time, a mile at a time, your show at a time. That's what we're doing it. This is what we have to do.
Stay tuned for more of Women Road Warriors coming up.
Did you know that 80% of America's communities rely on trucking alone to deliver their goods? The trucking industry keeps America running thanks to the 3.6 million professional truck drivers traveling over 300 billion miles a year. Industry movement Trucking Moves America Forward, or TMAF, tells the story of trucking and its positive impact on our economy, communities, and lives. Learn how you can be part of the industry movement working to build a strong image of trucking by visiting truckingmovesamerica.com. Kathy Tuccaro is nothing short of amazing. She not only drives the world's biggest truck as a heavy equipment operator in northern Alberta, Canada. She's an international motivational speaker and the author of Dream Big, an autobiography about overcoming a lifetime of trauma and abuse that led to dreams of success. Kathy inspires people the world over to change their lives and improve their self-worth. Her book will change your life. She's passionate about personal growth and believes anyone can change their circumstances and overcome their obstacles if they believe in themselves. Her life will amaze you and seriously inspire you. Be sure to order a copy of her book, Dream Big, on Amazon.com.
Welcome back to Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro.
So
Yeah.
how do women empower themselves in your mind, Marilyn? Is there maybe a summary that you could give as a takeaway for some of the ladies listening on to this episode?
Have a community. Find people that you can really talk to and express yourself. And if someone in your life is not that person, but they have to be in your life, that's fine. Maybe it's a mother, it's a sister, it's a cousin, it's a sister-in-law, whoever it is has to be in your life, but they don't share the same, path that you do. It's okay to keep them in your life. It's okay to plant a seed with them, but find those women that can go to where you want to go. Because you're absolutely right in wanting to go somewhere. you're absolutely correct in wanting to express yourself, feel, grow, take on the world. You're absolutely correct. There's no reason you shouldn't. You need that encouragement. And if it's a friend, find them. If it's a counselor, find them. If it's a coach, find them. Find those people that are your cheerleaders, that feel the same way you do about our personal rights and our freedoms. It's very important.
What do you say to the naysayers?
Not much you can say.
Yeah.
Show me.
Good answer.
Honestly, it's not much you can say. It's
I
like,
love that.
yeah, I mean, what are you going to say?
Yeah.
Kind of like, what did Gandhi say?
Be the change that you wish to see.
Yeah, that's all. Start doing it.
Very good. Yes.
I mean, here's the thing too. Like sometimes when you want to take an action, you want to do something, you want to speak about something, you want to do something. Sometimes we educate, sometimes we have an opportunity, we just can do it. Education is great, but if you're going to be rowing backwards constantly for years and years, it's time to move on.
Right.
You may be making a difference in that boat, but you may just need to like scratch, check it off your list and come visit it again sometime. You don't have to get rid of things. You just got to take them off of this list, put them on what I call the parking lot, and go back and revisit it sometime. Because haven't you ever like thought of something, wanted to do something, and it wasn't the right time?
Yep.
Right? But then the time comes. So it doesn't mean you got to like get rid of it, erase it out of your life completely. It just means it's not right now. Move on and find the other doorway in, or find the other opportunity.
And then don't beat up on yourself because
that is like, forget that. That there is no reason anybody should beat themselves up. If you do the best that you can, and you start to come from your heart as much as you can, you speak from your heart as much as you can, and you acknowledge you're doing it as much as you can. You're doing it with whatever knowledge you have, wherever you've come from, you're doing it to the best of your ability. There's no reason. And that and each thing we do, we learn from. We learn from everything.
That's right.
Yeah,
So
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I think it's when you stop learning that you stagnate, much like algae.
Yeah. Well, we're always learning. We just may not want to always agree with it, I guess. Or maybe we do just, get stuck. But even stuckness is a learning.
It is.
Yeah.
So what is your network about, Marilyn? I don't think we had talked as in depth on that.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to ask that. Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
So about 14 years old, we started with these chapters that met weekly called Coffee and Contacts. And they, there was a specific agenda. And, it's about, women know how to connect, right? We know better than men on how to build a relationship. So it's all about relationships. So we started about 14 years ago with Coffee and Contacts, and then we would do Cocktail and Contacts at night. We would like open it up and have parties and stuff. So that's how we morphed into creating women's power networking, so that we had an umbrella that we could fit other things in. And so before COVID, we had chapters in 3 or 4 states, and it was busy. I mean, it's women, it's busy and there's a lot going on, and it was pretty extraordinary actually. And then COVID. Yeah. So you know how things ebb and flow, right? So
sure.
you go up, and then you kind of level out, and then you take a plunge. But it was a lot. And here I am doing all these other things that have meaning, more, not more meaning, but have new meaning for me. I was involved. I'm doing an opioid summit. I'm doing all these different things, and I want to work on this Black Fathers book, and I have other books that I want to work on, and I want to speak more, and I want to do these podcasts. So I didn't want to take the time to do the women's stuff. It was a choice. At some point, you have to filter out the things that are just not working.
Right.
so that you can, right? So you can spend time doing the things that do work. So I called a meeting and the organizers came and I said, look, I need help. I can't do this like this on my own. Well, I have somebody who helps, who does I have an administrative manager who works, does all the other stuff, but I have to pay her. And if people aren't joining, then I don't have money to pay her and I'm paying out of my pocket and I don't want to do this anymore. And all the organizers said, well, we don't want you to give this up. So how can we help? And that was a big lesson. So we worked on it for about, I don't know, a couple of months and we revamped. I often say to people, I didn't want Women's Power Networking to just be part of what was going on and the part of the curve. I wanted to help create the curve. And because we were one of the first all women's networking groups probably in North Carolina, maybe in a lot of places. 15 years ago, 14 years ago, who was doing this?
Sure. And women need that for sure.
And yes. Oh my God, we do. Well, we do. And I know everybody needs it. So we revamped. We had certain rules. We got rid of the rules. Mm-hmm. So now the chapters, they're not seat exclusive. So you can have multiple realtors in a chapter. You can have multiple people selling insurance in a chapter, multiple coaches in a chapter. And we narrowed down the amount of chapters. And we offer, we're doing skills trainings every month, and hard skills, not soft skills, like technology skills. Maybe it's about Canva, or it's about, how to work, Google My Business better, but, things like that to improve. Yeah. We're doing more of things like that, and we've had more people join, and it's growing again.
We have just a couple minutes, and okay. I want people to be able to reach you. Where do people find you, Marilyn?
Well, that's a good question too. So my email, and I love communicating. I love connecting. So I would love for people to contact me at Marilyn, MARILYN, at Marilyn Shannon, SHANNON.com. I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to just whatever. It's great. I mean, because, we have to talk. And I have my books are on Amazon. My website is MarilynShannon.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. Marilyn Listens on Twitter. So I'm easy to connect with. And I would, say that I have an open invitation for that.
Terrific. I
Wonderful.
love your insight.
Yes, it's been absolutely a delight talking with you.
Likewise. Thank you. It's been exciting. I love how you sound, and I love what you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you.
Love what you're doing too, Marilyn. This is great. I love what you're doing.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
You've been listening to Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro. If you want to be a guest on the show or have a topic or feedback, email us at info@tncradio.live.
Thank you for listening to another great interview on tncradio.live. All of the material you hear on tncradio.live on our website, our broadcasts, or our podcasts are copyrighted. There can be no distribution without the express consent of tncradio.live and its partners. For inquiries, write us at info@tncradio.live.